everything up.
Okay. Good evening. It's now 5:30 p.m., Monday, December 14th, 2020, and I'm calling this meeting of the City Council of Paris to order. We'll start off with the invocation by Gene Anderson, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mayor Pro Tem Ms. Portugal. Everyone stand, please.
May we pray? Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be able to live in this country, Father, and we just pray that you would guide our municipal leaders tonight, Father, as they make the decisions that need to be made, give them godly wisdom and understanding. And Father, we thank you for this vaccine that is being spread out now across our country, and we pray for its effectiveness. Father, we pray that those who are sick would get well and get better, Father, and be able to return home. And Father, we just ask all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next comes the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city, council members, or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for Citizens Forum. The Citizens Forum is now open. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step up and give us your name and address. You'll have at least 2 minutes.
Allowed to remove this from talking?
No, you pull it off.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Brian Glass. I live at 43.
You can take it off if you want to.
I
Brian.
can.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you can.
Thank you. My name is Brian Glass. I live at 4357 FM 2648, Powderly, Texas, 75473. I come here on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club of the Red River Valley. I am the current president of the board. I'm here with my supporters, fellow board members, and we're here. A little be known, 66 plus years ago, we started serving kids, underprivileged kids and children of Lamar County, at one time boys. In 2000, the club took on the name of the Boys and Girls Club. We started bringing young women into our club and helping develop those young women as well. We currently serve, give or take, depending on COVID regulations, 140, 150 to 200 youth daily here in the city of Paris. I come to you today. It is our belief that we hope to one day expand our club operations, and we have found out that the city actually owns part of our club, or what we've used as a club for ever. Okay, so Sims Norman said he played baseball on that field. We won't say how many years ago, but he thought it was owned by the club then as well. So the city of Paris actually owns the lot from the baseball fields or softball fields, call them what you will, east to the creek. We own everything from the fields back to the west to First Street, and we're asking the club, the city consider partnering with us and hopefully gifting us or donating that portion of property owned by the city that we have maintained for many, many years. And obviously we would love to be able to expand our operations one day, being able to own all that. And last but not least, it would obviously, if we could form that partnership, that we would pay any and all expenditures associated with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to address the council? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and we'll go to the consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that any council member wishes to have pulled for additional discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. And I think Ms. Knox wanted to make a motion to move something up here.
Yes, sir. Given the fact that we've got so many visitors, I would like to make a motion to move agenda item number 25 up.
To the next item, yes.
Yes, and discuss the conveying of the 2 baseball fields.
Second.
Got a motion and a second by Mr. Pilgrim. All in favor? Okay, so we'll go immediately now to item number 25. Mr. Path, you want to discuss this, or who's more appropriate? Ms. Harris, okay.
I'm finally going to be able to speak from the desk here because the microphone is already on and I don't have to turn it on. There are only a couple of issues with respect to taking care of this conveyance that the Boys and Girls Club have asked for, assuming that you want to do that. One is, my understanding is one of the ball fields is on some land that we own that's part of a bigger lot, and that would need to be subdivided. The other issue is that for a municipality to donate land, it has to be for a public purpose, and it has to be perpetual, that public purpose. So, for example, if it were sold to be something by the Boys and Girls Club, to be something else, it couldn't do that. It would have to revert back to the city. But those are the only 2 caveats.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, first off, I'll open it up for the council. I certainly am in support of this. I think everyone I've talked to has been strongly supportive of this. Mr. Savage couldn't be here tonight. He was clearly in support of this as well. What's the consensus on the council about this?
You know, I'm a Boys and Girls Club advocate, and if I could give y'all a new building, I'd do that too. That's the goal. But yes, I'm totally in support of this. Anything that's conducive for the children and the club to prosper. And also, I want to give my condolences for the loss that y'all had yesterday. I'm praying for you guys. But yes, I'm in total support of donating this land and working out whatever the city needs to do.
Mr. Hughes, what's your opinion on this?
Like Mr. Norman, I also played baseball on those fields from as long as I can remember, from 8 years old to 16. So I'm thoroughly in support of anything that we can do to better the Boys and Girls Club. I too agree that the building, if we could build up a brand new building in another location, I'd be very supportive of that. So most certainly I support this motion.
Ms. Portugal?
Absolutely, I'm in favor. They do a great service for this community.
Ms. Knox?
My son learned how to play ball out there at the Boys and Girls Club. I'm a strong advocate, and this is coming from a Girl Scout. I don't know of another organization that, does so much for children outside of Girl Scouts than the Boys and
Mr.
Girls
Pilgrim.
Club.
Absolutely. Didn't grow up here, but a firm believer in the program.
Okay, so obviously you've got 100% council support on this, so we just need to find a way to do this that's legal and is compliance with applicable
Correct.
laws.
And if you like, you can go ahead and take a vote on making that conveyance subject to subdividing the land and the documents being provided to you at a subsequent meeting.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the transition of the land from the city of Paris to the Boys and Girls Club of Paris with the provisions of the subdivision that she just spoke of, Ms. Harris.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, thank y'all for coming and for what you do for the community. We really appreciate it. And thanks for your support for all the kids. Which brings us back to the regular agenda. Item number 17, discuss, conduct a public hearing and act on an ordinance regarding the petition of Bay Suite Properties LLC for a change in zoning from a one-family dwelling district number 2, SF2, to an office district O in the city of Paris, Block 285, Lot 1, LCAD 18418, located at 25 Southeast 31st Street. Mr. Path.
Yes, Bay Suite Properties. Bay Suite Properties, they own about a quarter acre of land on Lamar Avenue and 31st Street. This used to be formerly a house, a residence there. It is currently zoned single-family dwelling district number 2, SF2, and they want to turn into an office district O. And so our future land use recommends retail. So this is actually getting us closer to our future land use. Going from residential to office is one step closer to retail, which we favor that. And The owners proposed that they'll have like 3 general administrative offices. We've already had a pre-development meeting with them. We've discussed codes with them and so forth. It should be a great project. We're looking forward to that. Planning and zoning met on this. They voted 7-0 to approve this. We did have 2 zoning input forms that turned in. Both were opposed. Concerned with traffic, parking, and trash were the 2 concerns. But otherwise, the city staff and the planning and zoning recommend approval of this project.
Okay. Well, let's open the public hearing. The public hearing on this is now open. Anyone wishing to come up in favor or opposition to this, please step up. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, open it up for council discussion. Any council member have any comments or discussions or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for this.
I'll make a motion to change the zoning from single-family dwelling to office district at the 25 Southeast 31st Street.
Second.
All in favor? And it's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Path. Next is item number 18, discuss, conduct a public hearing, and act on an ordinance regarding the petition of the Christ and Elizabeth Txdot Memorial Foundation for a change in zoning from a planned development district to a multiple family dwelling district in the city of Paris, Block 188E, Lot 23, part of LCAD 109655, located in the 2800 block of Jefferson Road at Collegiate Drive. Mr. Path.
The Txdot Foundation is working with the Gibbs family to 2 steps here. They want to change the zoning of 10 acres of their current 39-acre property. So again, we're talking about the southern part of their property there, 10 acres there for this. And they have developed a contract pending this, of course, and they have authorized the Txdot Foundation to work on this with us. So we did clear that up here. They're looking at subdividing the property, but they also want to change the zoning from planned development district to multifamily district number 1. They wish to construct about approximately 75 to 80 senior living apartment units. What they've told us, they've not given us a lot of details yet. They want to see if zoning will pass first, but they said these will be single-story, approximately duplex, quadplex type units. Let's see what other notes here. Again, senior living units here. Looking at the property, future land use is public lands and institutes, that's kind of governments, schools, and so forth. So we have the high school and the junior high is right over there. So that's what we had. That's what we have that zoning there. We do have residential and commercial just south of that. So this is not too out of line with the area. And so let's see here. The Planning and Zoning voted to approve this 7-0 and recommend it to the City Council. City staff is also recommending this for approval. Let's see, anything else? And then, of course, if this is approved tonight, they will then proceed with subdividing the property. So.
Okay. All right. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this, please step up. See. Oh, yes. Yes.
I'm available on behalf of the Txdot Foundation if anybody has any questions.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else have anything to say? If not, I'll close the public hearing. It's now closed. And any council members have any questions or discussion?
I have a question. Are you requesting the entire 39 acres or just the 10 acres the Txdot Foundation will be using for the zoning change?
To the 10 acres.
The 10 acres, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay. I'll make a motion that we change the zoning from a planned development district to a multiple family dwelling district in the city of Paris, Block 188E, Lot 23, located at the 2800 block of Jefferson Road at Collegiate Drive.
I'll
Second.
All in favor?
All 3 of us. All 4 of us.
Unanimous, okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Item number 19, discuss and act on a resolution approving Thomas McMonigal as the fire chief as recommended by the city manager in conformance with section 23 of the city charter. Mr. Path and Mr. McMonigal.
As the city council knows, the fire chief position was vacated back in October 2019 when Chief Vogel moved on to a job in Florida. And so upon my arrival, I went to work hiring several positions, but one of them was fire chief. And so working with the interview team, I listed the names there, several chiefs from surrounding areas. We received over 43 applications. We interviewed over 15 over 3 rounds of interviews. Tonight, I'm pleased to present to you Thomas McMonigal. He is our current assistant fire chief. He He's also been serving as our interim fire chief in the last year and a half. I'm very impressed with this individual, with his character, his integrity, and his energy and experience. I think he'll do a great job for the city of Paris. He has over 34 years of experience working with the city in the fire department, working through all the ranks his way up to assistant chief now. Let's see here, anything else I want to say? Again, he holds an impressive array of education and training and credentialed certifications, so I know he'll do a great job for us. And so pursuant to our city charter, city council must either approve or disapprove my appointments. And in addition, this is a civil service department, per Texas Local Government Code 143, city council will have to confirm as fire chief. And so I'll turn it over to Thomas McMonigle if you have any questions for him. So.
Okay. Any questions for Chief McMonigle?
I appreciate you stepping up and taking the leadership role, in the time that we didn't have a chief, but I'm for you. So your experience speaks for itself.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the confidence of the city manager and the council. I'm very grateful and humbled.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I'm very appreciative of the leadership that you showed during this challenging times of COVID. So thank you so much.
All right. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to confirm
I
this fine
move
gentleman.
that we accept the recommendation of city manager to appoint Thomas McMonigle as fire chief.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Congratulations, Chief. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Okay, item number 20, discuss and confirm reappointment of Del Drake to serve on the Civil Service Commission. Mr. Path?
Yes, pursuant to our local government code 143.006B, the city manager is required to appoint a commission member whenever a vacancy is done. Del Drake was brought to the position in September 27, 2018. He filled an unexpired term at that point. His term is now expired, and so we've approached him. He's willing to serve again, and so I would recommend Mr. Del Drake to the Civil Service Commission.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Path at all? All right. If not, I'll make a motion that we confirm the reappointment of Del Drake to serve on the Civil Service Commission.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Item number 21, discuss and act on a consulting services agreement for third-party engineering audit services of the 2013 Utility Bond Package Number 4 project with Alfred Benish and Company in an amount not to exceed $101,630 to consider forming and filling a city council subcommittee for said project and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents. Mr. Path.
At the last city council meeting, November 9th, 2020, the city council met with Jeff Sockel as well as and Tim O'Brien. They're both engineers with Alfred Benish and Company to discuss the services of auditing our utility bond package number 4 project. This is the large $25 million plus project we've been working on, and we've been discussing the last few months with this. So they presented their qualifications. City council was pleased with their qualifications, and they then tasked me with negotiating a scope of service. I have done that and presented. I have it before you tonight. You have an agreement in front of you as well as a scope of services. Just to kind of summarize this scope of service as how this would work. Benish would meet with a subcommittee of the City Council, about 3 members of the City Council, as well as myself, Public Works Director Michael Smith, and anyone else City Council wished to include there on city staff. We would work to identify several key issues in the project, about 6 in total. 5, one would be just kind of generic problems that projects this size usually face. They would bring their expertise to the meeting, kind of guide us on what those areas may be. But then 5 specific projects like MLK 17th, other things you'd like for them to study. And then they would go about auditing those. They'd be working with city staff, looking at documents, field notes, the contracts, building a timeline of the project, who was responsible for what. And to do this, in order to be financially minded, they would study about 3 of them, the generic one as well as 2 of those categories. And then once they get those results back, we can then look at it. If we decide to keep on going, we can spend some more money and to do those other 3 categories. Otherwise, we can call it quits and save some money at that point. Again, this is a not-to-exceed contract of $101,000 roughly. Again, if we don't, each of those categories is about $8,000, and so we could see some savings through that. They want to try to give us some phasing into this if you wanted to go a little ways and then stop it and call it good, or go further and go the whole $101,000 route with that. So, otherwise, I'd entertain questions about the scope of service or the plan. And otherwise, I'd also encourage you tonight, if you approve this, to also identify 3 of your body to serve as a subcommittee to meet with Alfred Benish and myself and Mr. Smith to develop those categories. And then we would work on those, audit them, and bring them back to full city council for reporting. So.
Yeah, this sounds like a good idea, and potentially we get the information we need and not have to spend that much money. And
Yes.
I like the fact that they're willing to pay as you go on it and cut it off anytime we want to.
And I should say, too, looking at our bonds, we do have money available for this as well. We've estimated approximately about $1.2 million remaining in the bonds that could go through the project. So we have money available to go towards this if we proceed.
Okay. All right, any questions from Mr. Path on this?
The only thing I've got is, and the public needs to know this too, is we had a $24 million project, and we think that there's some issues that probably were brushed over a couple years ago that were not taken care of correctly in line with the contract that we signed with the Renda construction company. And Grayson, thank you for getting these guys put together. This is, I think, a closure item that we need, and maybe we don't find anything, and that's fine. I think we will, unfortunately, but we'll know where we are, and we can go back on some of that stuff with the Renda, because we're spending $24 million, $100,000's a drop in the bucket. I hate to spend money outside of normal calls, but this is, in my opinion, a kind of an emergency deal that needs to be looked at.
I agree with you, Clayton, and I like the way this is structured. I was really impressed with this firm, and I couldn't have asked for a more unbiased, impartial third party than you came up with, Mr. Path. We appreciate it. Any comments or questions for Mr. Path from anybody else?
I like this because it holds people accountable for their positions and what they're supposed to be doing. So this will help the city out a lot.
Yes, yes.
Are we going to be doing this every time we have a project that we sign a contract with? Or is this because some things sort of fell through the crack because it was such a huge project and we had so much going on at the same time? I mean, are we going to be hiring people like this for all of our jobs, or?
Hopefully not. I would hope not.
Okay.
But certainly I think there's enough indication that the contract hasn't been followed, that this is something that will make some sense to find out, as Clayton said.
And I think we have something on the agenda later for the safety record and performance record of firms that would hopefully stop the need for this sort of thing.
Okay.
I'm all for the firm. I was impressed with their material.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I'll go ahead and make a motion that we act on the consulting services agreement for third-party engineering audit services as proposed with Alfred Benish and Company.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, and now that we've done that, we do need to set up a city council subcommittee of at least 2, possibly no more than 3 council members. I'll volunteer to be on that committee. Would you like to, Mr. Hughes would like to, would anyone else like to be on that committee?
I'll volunteer if nobody else wants it.
Anybody else? Okay, so Clayton, myself, and Mr. Hughes here, and so we 3 will form the committee that will meet with Benish and you at a later date.
If Mr. Savage wants to do it as well.
I spoke with him tonight. He said he didn't want to.
Okay.
So he couldn't make it tonight, but I spoke with him about it.
What will that entail? Will we meet just whenever they get it together, have a meeting?
Yeah, it'd be likely after the first of the year, and yeah, we'll organize a meeting, and Benish will come down and meet with us in person. And but I'll send you details once we finish signing this. I'll get with Jeff Sockel and we'll figure out details. So
that works for me.
All right, so that committee's been set, and do we need to vote on that committee, or just kind of an agreement here? Everyone okay with that committee? Okay, all right. All right, next is item number 22, discuss and act on a Txdot safety grant proposal to pursue funding for a raised median from 33rd Street to 42nd Street on Lamar Avenue and the closing of multiple crossover lanes on Loop 286 located at near Home Depot, 29th Street, Spur 139, and Clement Road. Mr. Path, you want to summarize this for us again?
I will start this, and then I'll turn over to Mr. Taylor, who's here tonight with Txdot. And so Txdot, our local office, has approached the city about the idea of doing a raised median as well as some closing some crossovers along Loop 286. They have access to some safety grant funding through Txdot itself, and it's a competitive program, and so they would need to apply for this before they have applied because of timing, the way it worked out, but they want to make sure that the city would support this. And so they approached city staff. We worked with them on this thoroughly. We then took it to the Traffic Commission. They did vote to recommend this to the City Council, but now we bring it to the City Council to review these ideas. And if the City Council is supportive of this, Txdot will proceed with submitting these projects to Txdot for the other branch of Txdot for funding purposes. Again, it's competitive. We may not get it, but if we do, great. And otherwise, if we're not, they'd be willing to pull the application as well. Let's see here. Otherwise, yes, we're looking at a raised median from 33rd Street to 42nd Street, Lamar Avenue, with some U-turn capabilities as well as some crossover, closing some crossovers on Loop 286. And I will turn over to Mr. Taylor now to discuss those with you, and you can ask some questions, and we'll be here as well to answer questions as well. So,
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Hi.
Welcome.
I think y'all got kind of the stuff I'd submitted. As Grayson had kind of said, every year we have a safety project. We go and we're looking at safety projects, and they're selected based on the number of accidents associated with the remedy, like for the median, raised median. Let me put this here. I can just put it right here. That's fine. Like for the raised median, there's so many, like, you know, like for instance, out on North Lamar, we've had 76 accidents in the past 3 years. Now, when I did my review, 29 of them were people leaving accesses left turn related. Now with the FHWA, this is an FHWA program, so we get money from the feds. Their standards are much more stringent than ours. Like I kind of looked at it, if somebody was leaving an access and they were cutting left across and they got T-boned, to me, if the median was there, obviously that probably wouldn't happen. FHWA, they're basing it based on being in that left turn. So their standards are much more stringent than what when I brought. What I provided in the document is per FHWA. These projects, as Grayson said, they're competitive. We have kind of submitted these just tentatively. We know that we could get funding if we were on concurrence. We would get funding for these projects. But I think that, you know, dealing with Grayson, we want to be in lockstep. We don't want to do anything the city doesn't support. Conversely, talking to Grayson, we want to be united no matter what we do. So, you know, kind of in this, you know, the traffic on North Lamar is just on Lamar is getting heavy. Every year it's going up. We've got a lot of businesses. You know, we got Chick-fil-A coming in pretty soon. So it's just going to be, it's going to be, like I said, it's just going to be a challenge. So we've got that. We've got a high driveway density. I mean, there's over 55 vehicle accesses per mile, which we kind of put on accesses per mile. And anytime you got over, our studies go up to 40 per mile. When you go up beyond that, we don't even have a study that kind of analyzes anything beyond.
What's the traffic count there on the west side of the loop there, where the Chick-fil-A kind of is?
Right now, it's almost 22,000 vehicles a day.
Wow.
And it's probably it'll probably go up. And then you're going to have a lot of people coming and going. And we, of course, when these things come through, we evaluate. There's a program where we can kind of look at all these accidents, and you can filter by remedies. And one thing I noticed in doing this is from 33rd to right around 33rd to 42nd, there were several accidents that, and of course, one of the remedies would be the raised median. So that's why we kind of looked at it. And of course, it's more than that. Then you got to develop an estimate to make sure, if you have some accidents, it's fine, but if the thing costs $100 million, it doesn't make sense. That's where that, I think there's a safety benefit ratio, that 4.55. That's where that comes from, is it's the cost associated with the improvement divided by the economic and financial ramifications of the incidents. So we kind of looked at it, we kind of studied it. I think there was a really crude layout I did in Microsoft Paint or something that kind of gave you kind of a general view of it. You know, we would have a U-turn opportunity at 33rd, one at the Loop on the, whether it be on the west side, then one on the east side, one at Walmart, and then one at 42nd.
Are you comfortable taking your mask off?
I would if y'all are fine with it, but
It's fine, please do.
okay.
That helps.
So are you saying you're gonna put something else out there by Walmart?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we were talking, when you put this raised median, one of the issues that you have is you want to create an opportunity for people to get to businesses on the other side.
Yes, sir.
And that's where we would create cross. Now, in conjunction with that, I'm trying to think, at the Loop, we've got plenty of pavement. But like at 42nd, Walmart, and then 33rd, we would actually have to do some widening there to accommodate that left turn. But if you're driving a really small car, you can make it now. But if you're driving a pickup or an SUV, you're going to need some more pavement. So that's something else we would have to do is, yeah, exactly, to accommodate those U-turn maneuvers. So that's kind of what we've done. I've done some reviews. We've submitted the estimate. Like I said, it's something we can get funded, but we really wanted to reach out to the city and get y'all's thoughts. And
Well, I'm personally strongly in favor of this. Y'all have done your homework, and I've personally seen everybody's seen the nightmare that traffic is in front of Walmart. And if this helps alleviate it and keeps people safe and may even make it easier to get in and out when you don't have every single car trying to turn left, it's just a nightmare. And so I'm glad you guys are doing this. And also, the Loop has so many crossovers, and they're just dangerous. And there's plenty of other places. I've never seen a Loop with as many crossovers as we got in such a short distance. So I'm fully behind this.
one thing I would say is Grayson did ask a really good question, is the economic impacts. And I did include an economic summary, because I feel I think Grayson mentioned in the Traffic Commission, if we wanted it completely safe, everybody would go 10 miles an hour. But if you wanted to make it great, then there would be no speed limit at all. So and some of the things that were some key findings was that it didn't really impact business. I looked at some of the studies, and one actually found out that it can increase mobility, because if you're coming out of a business, that one person wanting to turn left queues everybody up. Whereas if that opportunity is no longer there, so they can turn right. And in addition, and I don't believe I mentioned it, but we would also need to reevaluate our signal phasing, because we're obviously going to need to account for that U-turn. We're going to have to add some green time to that. But in conjunction with that, everything should flow a lot better, because you're not having to Star Wars it around traffic.
And your study did show no economic downturn to the businesses whatsoever. In fact,
I believe it said 80% of respondents had no complaints at an area.
I know I literally avoid the Walmart area unless I absolutely have to go there. If I knew there were smoothly flowing traffic there, I'd be a lot more inclined to go to those businesses. So my personal experience, I'm in complete agreement with you. I don't think this will hurt anything as far as businesses.
Part of the concern that we talked about was, obviously, when you go to do a raised median there, even some of the crossovers, is what is the impact of the businesses on the opposite side there. And so, but again, since we're looking at a greater U-turnability, signal changes there, but overall, you have to balance safety with economics there. It's a tough one. It's a tough balance there, but we really do think that, given the numbers we see here, that it is worth the safety to pursue these projects here and go for this and so forth. But so I want to throw that in there.
And I didn't go over the crossovers, removing of course, and I've got the of course, I think like at Home Depot, I was showing, and I didn't highlight that number, 1 serious and 3 non-incapacitating, 32 accidents, with 1 serious and 3 non-incapacitating. One thing I did go and looked at every accident. Of course, you would realize right there, 34 of the 37 accidents were attributed to the U-turn, which would make sense, because it's by itself.
And that doesn't count the accidents that people slow down
No.
and get rear-ended.
Yeah, and that's something that it's really, without going through every accident, it's really a challenge. And then, of course, that one's kind of by itself. I can kind of show you a comparison, like at 29th Street, there were 138 accidents, but a lot of those are affiliated with Collegiate. Of course, Collegiate's, but when we did our, kind of looked at it, it's really 34 of 138, so about 25% of them. Of course, that crossover is it's like with 1/10 of a mile. On the traffic commission, somebody's like, where is that crossover? Because, and we couldn't even figure out when we discussed it. I'm assuming that maybe somebody here I bet 29th Street was probably built before Collegiate, and that's why that crossover is there, because you'd think that when that was done, that they're so close that it kind of creates some confusion. The next one is at Spur 139. There's been 83 accidents. Upon further review, 22 of those so it's about 27%. And then with Clement Road, there's 93 accidents. 24 of those are kind of filled, so that's about 26%. So excluding, of course, Home Depot is that's a highly used location. But the others, it's generally about 25% of the accidents are kind of attributed to those crossovers. In addition, I kind of included it on there because the key thing that everybody's going to ask is, how's this going to impact me getting to Home Depot or wherever I want to go on the other side? And I tried to include now these are round trips because I think initially I kind of had the one way, but I want to, in spirit of being fully transparent, I want to try to give you the full length.
I'm really impacted by that crossover at Home Depot because of where I live. So anytime I'm going from my neighborhood south, I come out by Toyota and try to get across, and at certain times of day you just can't do it. But if I'm coming downtown, I use 195. So that's your second choice in your backup material, that you'd go to 195 anyway to make a U-turn. So, it's the safer way, I think, to do it, because I see people really coming close to those accidents, but they manage to miss one another.
Yeah, and as I previously said, I looked at every crossover in Paris. These are the ones that had accidents that the FHWA would recognize and provide funding to address.
I have a question. If we close the Home Depot crossover, that will divert a whole lot more traffic making a U-turn at 195. Is there a thought given to a dedicated U-turn lane like a lot of places have?
We haven't yet, and that's something we can evaluate, is trying to see if we've got room underneath that overpass. There was one of them I was trying to look at preliminarily. It was Pine Mill, once we already had one, because I thought we had the room, and I realized, we've got the U-turn. But those are things that we want to look at. Y'all are aware of our loop study, right? And we're kind of looking at, we're trying to look at short, intermediate, and long-term solutions. Of course, short term, obviously one of the biggest, as everybody knows, is Collegiate. That signal right there. There's lots of accidents there. And these are kind of the short, low-hanging fruit, things that we can do pretty quick. And in conjunction with that, we are looking at, the proposed movements would kind of match our ultimate. And then, obviously, ultimately, we're going to have to reconstruct some of these overpasses. 195, we may have to reconstruct so that we can accommodate these U-turn maneuvers. But that's something we would most definitely look at in further depth to see if we can create a dedicated U-turn lane.
I spoke with Dan Perry once about the absence of access roads on our loop
and that's actually part of the long-term thing, is to put in access roads, to put in the little frontage roads, because that's the problem. I think it's the credit union right there by the Ford dealership. I've had so many people that are complaining about people flying because they're coming out slow, but I think the speed limit's 55 or 60, and that's the problem, is you've got this flow of high-speed traffic and low-speed traffic, and that's, like I said, we need to put some frontage roads in there. That way people that don't wish to stop can go through there and not impact the people that are trying to get to their businesses or get to work or whatever.
Any other questions? Was that all your presentation? Or
Really, of course, I just wanted to summarize because I know there's a lot of stuff here. I tried to just hit the high points and then some other data that I was able to flesh out since producing this, but I also really wanted to address any questions, comments, or concerns y'all have. And like I said, I think I want to document the 195 U-turn, see if we can, and we'll look into that.
Yeah, that Home Depot, it's just always backed up, and
Yeah.
it affects traffic coming there. And if they didn't have that option, they would go through there and they'd exit at 195 and then they'd loop around. But those lights are a little slow there as well, so having to wait, go through two lights. Anyway, we'll look into it, I guess. Well, I'm personally strongly in favor of this, so I've said my say so. Anybody have any comments about it?
No, I just appreciate all the research and work that y'all put into it and to make our community more safe. Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Mr. Taylor, how long from start to finish will it take to do this project?
Ooh, that's a good question. We did pencil it in because it's one of those things that it's easier to get it, on the agenda than to add it late. We were showing, right now we had it penciled in for fiscal year 23, which is, work would start between September of 22 and August 23. Now, depending on PS&E work, we could possibly move it up, but we wanted to set it there. That way it would give us time to kind of flesh things out, make sure we're doing the right thing, not just something we're being rushed, doing the right thing. And then, but to answer your question, Lamar, the way you would think you'd do is you're going to set that up. You'd set pins in the pavement, you'd pour the curb, then you'd pour the median, and then we're also going to do a resurface there. I don't know. You're probably looking at a project like that. You're probably looking at 4 or 5 months. And now with all these projects, because of the traffic, to me this seems like a nighttime work only. I wouldn't feel safe with my staff out there, contractor employees, or even residents driving around while this is going on.
And you're working each project separately?
I would imagine that the crossovers would probably be done together, and that's something else I neglected. Is it part of removing these crossovers? Is we'd also want to extend the left turns, oh my goodness, at Collegiate for sure. Any location where we can extend some left turns. That's what we're wanting to do.
If I had to prioritize, I would put Lamar Avenue and the median.
And one thing I'll say is that all of these compete well and they will get funded. It's not like we got to pick or choose. It's not you're picking your favorite child or anything of that nature. All of them compete, so they would all be accepted.
All right, anybody?
And to add to the record too, this grant should be 100% Txdot as well. There was no local match requirement of this, so it's what made it even more attractive as well.
Yeah, it's all federal safety dollars. The FHWA comes up with it, and it's one of those things that we're just trying to get. I feel like I want to get more than my fair share. I mean, I want to get as much as we can, assuming it makes sense. We're not just trying to. It's not a game or anything, but we want to do what makes sense for the community, that everybody supports, that there's some tangible benefits to everybody.
Yeah, that's the best part of the project.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Paula?
Oh, it's just good information that you gave us. Thank you for being so thorough.
So we need to just pass a motion, request that we want to pursue funding for these projects. Is that correct? So I'll make a motion that we pursue funding for the raised median from 33rd to 42nd Street and the closing of multiple crossover lanes from Txdot. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor? You got unanimous support. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
Item number 23, discuss and act on developing a procedure for expending the City of Paris's allocation of coronavirus relief funding from the Texas Department of Emergency Management. Mr. Path, you had a pretty good presentation, so give it to us.
All right, very good. This summer, the federal levels issued the CARES Act funding to go towards cities across the nation, as well as states and other local entities as well, and including the county also. And we were allocated about $1.4 million, a little less than that, just a little shy of $1.4 million to go towards COVID-19 related expenditures. We were given our 20% up front and so forth. At the time, we were told that there had to be abnormal expenditures, things that are beyond what we normally would do, like overtime because of COVID, ventilators because of COVID, those kind of things. Well, now the federal government has changed that. They've alleviated the requirements in that. And so at the time we were looking at getting a portion of the money because we didn't have we didn't have that much abnormal expenditures, and because a lot of our services, this is part of our work, and so we respond to calls. We have equipment already, so we didn't have $1.4 million worth of expenditures to have. Well, they backed that off, and so now they've allowed us to be able to basically use all of our payroll for police, fire, and rescue to get all the funding to come our way. So what that now has done is we have now working with our third party, we have now put an application in for all $1.3 million and $1.4 million to come our way. So with that, we do have some commitments. We obviously are working with our third-party administrator. We have a contract for that, $22,500. We allocated some money to the health district. They came before the city council back in the summer to request some funding. They're actually going to come in under that by quite a fair amount, which is great. And so we're going to have some money saved from there. And we also allocated some money towards our 3 school districts in our city limits to help with some connectivity projects and so forth. Again, we did a lot of that not knowing that we could have all the money coming to us. And of course, we wanted to work with these entities as a good projects to work on. And we also wanted to make sure the money was coming to our community. Well, now, again, the handcuffs have been taken off. We can now receive the whole amount here. And so with this, now that we're receiving all the money, and given our fiscal year 19-20 budget basically absorbed much of the expenditure, we did not go over our budget last year. And so we purchased the testing kits, we bought some ventilators, we had some overtime, but our budget handled all that. And so we have some options here we can consider when using this money here. We have about 1.2, let's see here. I've estimated about $1.22 million balance here that we have available. And so I'm asking City Council tonight to consider some options here. One option, of course, is to try to just reimburse ourselves for things we bought, the testing kits, ventilators, those kind of things. Again, we've already paid for those, and our budget handled that, so it's not necessary to reimburse ourselves. We would just be adding to our reserve, which is not necessary, and we can do that, though. We can also set aside the money for like a future project, like a street project or a facility project or just whatever you want to do. My third option that I'd like to recommend tonight is, given this money was originally set aside by the federal level to go towards emergency purchases, I would recommend that we keep that. We set the money aside, and we use this money to invest in our municipal disaster-related responsibilities. Things like gear extractors, let's see here, training opportunities. If we have to buy any kind of equipment-related to go towards our disaster response, a command trailer, a new fire truck, I don't know, just something to go towards that helps us meet disasters, whether it be virus or fire or tornado, whatever it is. This is money that's been given to us, which we don't have very often. Sometimes emergency equipment is very expensive. And so I would propose that we use this money, set it aside, and use it to invest in our municipal emergency response abilities. And so the way I kind of see that happening is I would work with our departments to over time develop needs. We need a gear extractor. We need a new laundry system in order to clean our fire suits. We need a command trailer, whatever it is. We would then bring this to the city council. You could then approve those, make sure they fall in line with this use here, and then go from that point forward. Again, though, the city council could always at any point say, you know what, we're going to pull the money back and we're going to use it for some other purpose as well. And but I would propose that we pass a resolution tonight, or I'm sorry, not tonight, but the next night, once we work on this, and to bring it back to you to pursue that intent there of purchasing emergency-related equipment. And again, not supplies, not things that can expire, but actually equipment-related things that will last us, like training or heavy equipment, that kind of stuff. So I'll entertain any questions or thoughts about that. Again, this money can go, as to what I know, the money can now go towards about anything. We want to double check that, of course, but we're very confident that we can go towards emergency-related purchases. So.
All right, any questions for Mr. Path, starting at this end? Y'all got any questions?
I like the reservation because we're really not out of the COVID deal yet.
Yeah.
And can we buy vaccine with it?
Vaccine's free.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Yep.
But I think it's good that we just hold it for at least the next 8 months to a year until this kind of thing passes over, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, I like your proposal, Mr. Path. I would like to use it to spend on the things that, we didn't take much out of reserve, but I always hate to touch the reserve unless it's, this was a legitimate COVID expense that we did. So I think we could pay off the stuff that we took out of reserve and still have quite a bit left over.
I think so,
And
yeah.
then we could set it, and that would be my feeling. I don't know.
I'd want to replace the reserves.
Yeah, I'd like to replace the reserves and then set it aside and make sure we don't have ongoing expenses that are COVID-related. We don't know. We're hoping and praying that the vaccine puts an end to this, but that's still quite a few months off. And so, yeah, I agree with Mr. Pilgrim down there that don't anything right off with it, but we set it aside and earmark it for that, for emergency preparedness and things like that. I'm good with that.
I would need to, Gene, the way our budget landed, do we end up ultimately hitting the reserve last year? Because I know we raised enough revenue, we had lower expenditure. I don't know if we actually hit the reserve when it actually all fell, when it all netted out.
If we didn't, even if we found the money in the budget,
Yeah.
I think the first thing I'd like to do is if we found money in the budget, well, that's great. I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
But that's still money that would have gone in the reserve,
Sure.
and it's always good having more reserves. So I still would like to see the money spent for the legitimate COVID expenses first.
Yep.
And if that leads to an increase in the reserve, so be it. And then the rest of it, this is my feeling, but the rest of it, then I'd like to see set aside exactly as you've described. I like that.
Yeah, we can do that.
With the thoughts not to spend it until we're sure COVID is over and we don't have more COVID-related expenses that we don't see coming.
If we can have some liberty, there's some things that, like, for instance, our overtime. I mean, it's kind of hard to extract what was truly COVID versus not. So I think we'll try to limit to just, we have testing kits. We knew that for sure.
Yeah.
Anything that we truly know was truly COVID, which there's not going to be a huge list.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of just small things that here and there that it would take a lot of time to figure out, was it truly COVID or not? That's kind of the reason why we kind of were excited to have this come up, because we were having a hard time figuring out what was all COVID and what was not. So it may not be a huge list that we bring forward, but we'll definitely figure that out, and we can bring it back to you when we bring a resolution back to you with the actual number that we're talking about. So.
Yep. So what's was that okay with the council, or what's the consensus on this? What would y'all like to do?
I like it, and I like the idea that to save it for emergency-related items, yeah.
At one point, I believe Mr. Anderson was pursuing a possible refund on that testing. Did anything
Yeah,
come from that?
It did not. I checked with him on that the other day. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
There were kind of two different areas on that. We had paid for some kits that we had not yet received. We were able to cancel that order and get that money reimbursed to us. But the ones that we already had on hand in the original agreement, there was a no return clause in there, so they wouldn't take them back.
But we don't have that many, right?
We didn't get very many, about 3,500 total.
Yeah. And we still have them, I guess, if people need antibody tests. I mean, I always thought antibody tests, this would be the time it would matter, when we've had the pandemic run through the community. And now we want to find out whether you've had it or not. And a lot of people got asymptomatic cases. That was always the thought when the antibodies would be most useful.
And certainly, I think they had a 2-year life on them, so they've still got enough time
So I think
to usable.
we need to be looking at just finding ways to use these for the few we have left. So
Has it been approved for use?
not yet, no.
That's the issue.
Buyer beware.
Right now, we're waiting for I can't remember what government level, we're waiting for them to approve those test kits, so.
Okay, any other questions on this? You want to instruct them to do as we discussed here? We can change it later too, but everybody good with that?
Yes.
All right, item number 24, discuss and act on well, let's see, do we have to act on this? 23 said discuss and act. Do we need a motion on this, Stephanie?
It's an action item, but it's not necessary unless Mr. Path wants.
No, I have what I need.
motion.
I think I
Okay,
have
okay.
what I need, so,
Great.
yep.
Okay, 24, discuss and act on a competitive bidding policy for public works projects. Mr. Path.
All right. I'm going to team up with Stephanie on this one. We worked together on this particular item. The city council had tasked us with developing a policy when it comes to procuring construction-related projects at $50,000 or more. Again, local government code is $50,000 or more. So we worked together on this to try to develop you a policy that makes sense per the statutes. Government code 2269 that's the main procurement code when it comes to procuring services like projects like this. And so that code actually does spell out under .055 some criteria we can use. We put that in the policy here, things like a price. Let me turn that real quick so I can quote it better. Price, offers the offerer's experience and reputation, the quality of the offerer's goods or services, the impact on the ability of the governmental entity to comply with the rules relating to historically underutilized businesses, the offerer's safety record, the offerer's proposed personnel, whether the offerer financially capable. Whether the offer financially capability is appropriate to the size and scope of the project and/or any other relevant factor specifically listed. These all came straight out of the code itself, and so we felt most comfortable recommending that to you. We did find some other options out there. Other communities have adopted some other language, but again, this is in statute, state code. We thought this would be a good starting point. Again, with any policy that we pass, we'll have to try it out and see how it works. I am currently working on a master policy for like budgeting, procurement, spending thresholds, those kind of things. So this will probably get wrapped in that at some point here. But given we want to get this thing ready pretty quick, we focused on this one first, prioritized this one here first. And so, Stephanie, you have any comments though?
I think Grayson covered it. You will notice in that policy that from Chapter 2269 of the Government Code, there are multiple procurement methods. It's not simply competitive bidding. So these criteria go towards all of those. The way it would apply to competitive bidding would be to determine who is a responsible bidder. So unless somebody is qualified under these criteria as a responsible bidder, you can knock them out if they're not a responsible bidder, if they don't add up under these criteria. And then you go to the next person who's the lowest bid, who is a responsible bidder under these criteria. So that gives us some more flexibility. We really weren't using a lot of criteria before to determine responsible bidder. We were just awarding to lowest bidder. So now we've got that responsible back into the practice, and I think this is a good policy. It is a good place to start, and is certainly compliant with statute.
What would be the definition of a responsible bidder? I mean, is there an arbitrary cutoff? How will you define that someone is a responsible bidder?
There's not a statutory definition of responsible bidder, so it's going to be up to us in evaluating these folks as to whether or not they live up to these criteria. It's a little bit, you know it when you see it, but you try to take it as much of the guesswork.
Is it objective or subjective? How does this?
It's as objective as you can make it, but there's always going to be a little bit of a subjective portion there.
Number 6 says the offerer's proposed personnel. What are we talking there? I find that maybe we're getting into.
You know, that is in the statute. You know, I think it's something that if you wanted to say, you know, no people with child sex convictions or something like that, that's one of the ones that's kind of touchy-feely there a little bit, but that is in the statute.
Which is state law, correct?
Yes, correct.
Y'all just quoted the state law and the statute here.
We did.
Correct? Yeah.
Well, but if you haven't seen the 2 pages that are in the backup, which would be given to anybody that
And
was
those are safety record
going
issues.
to bid, the safety record and their performance, you know, if they have an objection to filling that out, then we probably don't want them to bid.
Well, if they have an objection to filling that out, that's part of our criteria, and they're not a responsible bidder.
Yeah.
Another item, I think, when you look at the proposed personnel, is how skilled and qualified are they as well? And that's one thing you look at it too, is I mean, if we're doing a very complicated project, is the whole team have 1 year's experience or less? That could be a concern as well. You want some quality of work as well. And so, I mean, we're trying to find a responsible bidder. Do they seem to know what they're doing? So there's different ways to look at that.
Right, and there is some interplay between these criteria, among these criteria. So, you know, the offers proposed personnel feeds into the safety records, feeds into the quality of their services. They're not necessarily always distinct, but they work together. And it's about as much flexibility as you're going to be able to do in a competitive bidding situation for certain.
So as I understand this, then we previously would almost always go with the lowest bidder, period. This will give us a little bit, but not a lot, but a little bit more flexibility to
It's gonna give
eliminate
us some
people
more
that we don't
flexibility.
believe are qualified bidders for
Correct.
a variety of reasons.
Correct.
But still, the overriding thing will be the price. That's the number one. If we find one that we believe is qualified and they're the lowest bidder, they automatically get it, correct?
Well, I think what you can do is qualify everybody as to responsible, and then the lowest bid amongst those responsible bidders
And who will do that
wins.
qualification? The council, the
Typically,
city
staff does that.
Yeah, city staff will do that?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Stone, you have anything for this?
I'm just glad we're putting something in place in order for us to be able to give more opportunity to other bidders outside and inside the city limits, but it holds people accountable, so I like that.
Mr. Hughes, you have any comments on this? Okay. Ms. Portugal, anything?
I'm very supportive and appreciate staff's work on this.
Ms. Knox?
I echo those sentiments, yes, thank you.
Mr. Pilgrim? All right, well, I think we're all in agreement. We like this idea, and if you guys want to implement it, we'll need to act on this to authorize this. So I'll entertain a motion on this. Let's see. Yeah, discuss and act on a competitive. So I make a motion that we approve the competitive bidding policy that's been presented to us tonight for
Second.
public works projects. Second. All in favor? Good, it's unanimous. We've already done 25, brings us to 26. Discuss and act on an ordinance granting a vehicle for hire license to David L. Thompson, doing business as Lone Star Cab Company. And pursuant to section 124 of the Paris City Charter, this must require 5 affirmative votes or it will fail, okay? So go ahead.
Okay, items 26 and 27 are both vehicle for hire ordinances. Mr. Thompson's been doing business ever since I can remember. It's up for renewal. And Mrs. Moore, you all approved her just a few months ago, and she's up for renewal. They have complied with all the requirements, and I ask that you approve each of the ordinances.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Ms. Ellis or any comments? I'll entertain a motion on number 26 to start with.
Make a motion to approve item number 26, granting Lone Star Cab Company a vehicle for hire license.
And I'll second it. All in favor? Okay, and item number 27, very similar, discuss and act on an ordinance granting a vehicle for hire license to Stop and Drop Transportation LLC. Once again, must have 5 affirmative votes for this one. Any discussion or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this one.
I'll make a motion to award a license to Stop and Drop Transportation LLC.
We've got a second. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Item number 28, discuss and act on a resolution for giving a dangerous structure abatement lien in the amount of $6,994.82 plus interest assessed against the property located at 339 West Kaufman. Mr. Path?
On November 25th, 2014, the city assessed a dangerous structure lien when we tore down a structure on 339 West Kaufman. This was demolition and cleanup. Then Mr. David Albert, who is present here tonight, He bought the property in 2016, obviously after the work was done, and so he was not the offender, obviously, and so this was a prior owner that did that. And so Mr. Allred has restored the existing church structure on the adjoining lot 357 West Kaufman and installed a parking lot on this one here, 339 West Kaufman, that supports that church structure there. So adding to the historical character of the city and increasing the taxable value to both properties. Mr. Allred has asked that the city forgive the lien and interest accrued on that property. Now, pursuant to City Code 754B, these liens can only be either be paid or forgiven by the act of the City Council. Nuisance liens I can do as city manager, but structured liens have to be for the City Council. Staff would recommend that we waive this fee, that we forgive this lien for Mr. Allred on 339 West Kaufman. I entertain any questions you may have.
Any questions? Any questions? Okay. All right. Well, again, I appreciate the work Mr. Allred did in making this church, restoring it and putting the parking lot on it. As this was not accrued when he owned the property, I'm in favor of forgiving this. So I'll make a motion that we forgive the dangerous structure abatement lien in the amount of $6,994.82 plus interest accrued against property located at 339 West Kaufman.
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, next is executive session, item number 29. Convene into executive session pursuant to section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code. 1, to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information that the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations. Or 2, to deliberate the offer of a financial or other incentive to a business prospect described by subdivision 1 as follows: First National Bank Building and associated properties. And item B, section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, consultation with attorney to receive legal advice from the city attorney about pending or contemplated litigation and or on matters in which the duty of attorney to her client under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflict with this chapter as follows: ruling on a public information request. Item C, section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employees as follows: 6-month performance evaluation of the city manager. It is now 6:36 and we're going into executive. Okay, great. So, okay.
caffeine, so you may have to fly to get me down.
Oh, it expired in March. That's why it tasted so bad.
I wonder when this will do.
Diet drinks do that.
I didn't know drinks had.
Diet drinks will, the artificial sweetener degenerates and it goes away, and then it's not sweetened anymore.
See,
Yeah.
I drink up to the sugar.
Okay, let's see, we're still missing Linda.
Linda must have made a pit stop.
You know, you had a long executive when Mary's the only one here.
You got chief over there.
No problem. All right. It is now 9:16 and we're out of executive session. We gave our routine 6-month evaluation of the city manager. We discussed with Mr. Alarid regarding the First National Bank building and other properties. We gave direction to staff to pursue negotiations for an economic development agreement with him. And finally, we had a discussion about a public information request. In the interest of complete governmental transparency, I make a motion that the City Council authorize and direct the release of all emails responsive to a Public Information Act request made by William Huberger on August 26, 2020, and modified by him on September 3rd, 2020. That's the motion I'm making. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All in favor of releasing all of these emails, raise your hand. We've got 3. Okay, so it's 3, and all opposed to releasing these emails? 3 to 3, it fails, okay? And that is it. Any future business? All right, motion for adjournment.
So moved.